Graham do you. Hello, and welcome to An Hour with an Angel, with Steve Becker, author of Building Nova Earth, Toward a World That Works for Everyone and founder of the Golden Age of Gaia, and Linda Dillon, author of The Great Awakening. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm Graham do you. Our guest today is Saint Germaine. So, with that, I'll pass it over to you, Steve. Steve Becker, thank you very much, Graham. And let me welcome a person that I have always admired and whose exploits I have always enjoyed reading about, and that is Saint Germaine. Welcome to the program, Saint Germaine. Saint Germaine, and welcome to you, and to each of you, friends, brothers and sisters of my heart. And I welcome you this day with my gift of the violet flame. You know, never to be outdone, in your last meeting, my beloved brother and yours, Archangel Michael has asked you to up the ante, and he most certainly has. And he has reminded you to burn the blue flame of truth brightly. And so, of course this day I bring forth the violet flame of the I Am presence. And I instill it once again joyously and deeply within your heart, within your third eye, within your crown, within the palms of your hands and the tips of your fingers. You have often said, what do I need to do to become the fullness of my I Am? Well, I have just given it to you. You are in a time of massive transition, but you are also in a time of the potential for joy and creation like never before. And might I remind you, whether it was in Atlantis or Lemuria, Jerusalem or the European courts, it has always been a time of transition. So, is it more intense at this juncture? Yes. Are you equipped to handle it? Yes. Are you being given assistance from above and below? Yes. So, my beloved friends, let us use this violet flame, this flame of transmutation and transformation, with all of its own chemical properties, to simply eliminate worry, doubt, fear, hesitation. And let us do it together right now. No, I do not, nor will I ever, impose my will upon you or anyone else. But when you have invited me, all of you, for this invitation did not simply come from Graham and Steve and Linda, it came from the hearts of all of you. And so you have invited me to a help, and I am pleased to do so. Zimbabwe Steve Becker. Well, just before we begin, Saint Germaine, I'd like to ask you 3 questions. And the first is that many African listeners were dismayed to see that Robert Mugabe was returned to power in Zimbabwe, and they'd like to know what they can expect to see there for those who are waiting to see freedom return to that country. Saint Germaine, well, let us begin, then. Because this does sound like a beginning to me, my friend. Steve Becker, laugh, thank you. Saint Germaine, chuckle, politics as usual. And that is not so. Yes, Mugabe has been returned to his position, but it was not as manipulated as some would make out. There has been significant progress in this country, and there has been a fullness not only of my flame but of a great deal of white light that has been embedded not only within this leader but within this cadre that is in control. But let us speak of the person, because, yes, he comes across as dictatorial, as manipulative, and as a person that wishes to simply die in office. But he is also being worked with to implement changes that are in favor of greater freedom. So this is what I say not only to those who have written this query, but to all my friends, but particularly my friends in Africa, for you know me well. Freedom, the expression of joyous freedom, which is the expression of your divinity in form, begins within you. Yes, you say, oh, but our movements, our freedoms are restricted. What I am asking you, and it is very similar to what Michael has asked you last week, is to let go, eradicate, transmute, towards the idea that any being, and particularly any human being, can control you. It is not possible. Now, you may work in ways that you feel are a workaround or even subversive. So be it. Do not allow anyone, any government, any parent, any friend, any partner, any neighbor, any idea, to restrict your freedom. Yes, it rests within you, but the expression of that freedom is your movement in the world, on Gaia, and being the spearhead of change. So, take faith, my friends. No, not a fool's belief, but faith in your powers, not only in ours. For do not forget, we are in full partnership. You are creating the change, in Zimbabwe, in Uganda, in Mozambique, in Botswana. You are doing it. Steve Beckow, all right. Now, can you just confirm for listeners, Saint Germaine, that Robert Mugabe is not in fact in containment? Saint Germaine, no. He is not in containment. Mugabe is not in containment. Let us say he is in school. And he has a few things that his soul and his sacred purpose on the planet need to learn and complete before he leaves. And he has agreed to this. So let us also say the Mugabe that you are dealing with today is not the same person you were dealing with, even as short a period as 5 years ago. Steve Beckow, okay. Well, why don't we leave it there, because we have a lot to cover in our program. Rumors of an asteroid. The second is, just very, very briefly, there is a rumor that a large asteroid will approach the Earth and be destroyed by the galactics in a very public display. Is that a true report? And if it is, can you just briefly give us some details on that event, please? Saint Germaine, it's not true. Steve Beckow, not true. Saint Germaine, understand. There are asteroids, comets, planetary debris, interplanetary debris that is passing through your area, your sector, all the time. And yes, your star brothers and sisters are very active in making sure that nothing harms their beloved Gaia, let alone the human race. Now, there have been recent impacts, as you know, of the asteroids. And there have been some demonstrations of how your star brothers and sisters have intervened. But this particular one is not. This is not, let me put it this way, this is not how your star brothers and sisters are going to introduce themselves. Steve Beckow, all right. Thank you for that. Saint Germaine's past lives now, just a few brief questions again on some past life matters that have been in dispute recently. I'd like to clean up some misconceptions about your past lives. You're said to have lived as Merlin, Joseph, the father of Jesus, Roger Bacon, Francis Bacon, Christopher Columbus, etc. Are any of the lives attributed to you lives that you did not live? Saint Germaine, I was not Joseph, the husband of what you think of as Mary, father or stepfather of Jesus. One Steve Beckow, but you were Merlin? Saint Germaine, yes, I was. Steve Beckow, okay. Well, that's very helpful. Saint Germaine, let me correct this. I was part of the Merlin energy. There were many of us who played in Merlin. But yes, I was a very primary occupant. Let me put it that way. Steve Beckow, all right. So both Merlin and King Arthur are definitely historical personalities? Saint Germaine, oh, my goodness. Not only are they accurate historical personalities, they are bright, shining lights. And do you notice, and yes, I know I am going on and on, the younger people's fascination with what we would call fantasy literature? And it is because they want these touchstones, because they remember and they want to bring back what has been thought of as mythology back into the magic of life that they are living right now. So, yes, those stories, supposedly, are very true. And they are there to give you hope and knowing that you, dear hearts, are magical. Steve Beckow, wonderful. And not just the younger children. Laughs, because I include myself in that as well. Saint Germaine, oh, no. I would say every age from 7 to 70. Steve Beckow, that's correct. Was Francis Bacon the illegitimate child of Queen Elizabeth? Saint Germaine, yes, that is correct. Steve Beckow, all right. Did he write Shakespeare's plays? Saint Germaine, yes. I did. Steve Beckow, oh. Well, you know that Shakespeare talked through Robert Altman back in the 1970s, too, and said that, no, it wasn't true, that he, Shakespeare, wrote all the plays, or at least he and the company. Was that not a true transmission? Saint Germaine, let us just say that it was a cooperative effort. I have no desire, and I know that you don't either, to discredit our good friend Shakespeare, or any other channel. But no, I have written those plays. Steve Beckow, all right. Well, I'm glad to finally have that cleared up. Was the novel The Scarlet Pimpernel written with you in mind? Saint Germaine, well, I would like to think so. Yes, it was. Abundance Program Steve Beckow, very interesting. Okay. Let's leave all that behind now and turn to the Abundance Program. Can you? You've already talked to us, in November, about certain aspects of the Abundance Program, so I won't be going over that material again. But could you please give us a synoptic description of the streams of wealth that will go into the Abundance Program? Saint Germaine, now, you are talking about planetary abundance, and you are talking about, and correct me, of course, if I am wrong, for I am always up for a lively discussion, but what you are talking about is various rivers of gold that are flowing quite rapidly all over your globe, all over the planet. And yes, we have spoken extensively in last November about the various abundance programs, and particularly about the trust. But let us review what we are discussing and where we are. And please, dear friend, feel free to interject. We are old friends, and I will not take offense at it. And if I meander, you may interrupt as well. Steve Beckow, okay. Saint Germaine, I also love to tell a good story. Let me take you to the caves and the palaces of gold. I wish to repeat to all of you, as a starting point, there is no shortage of abundance on your planet or within the Mother's universe. The lack of abundance, the lack that you say and know very what you believe up close and personal, is completely an illusion. Does it feel, smell, taste as if it is real? Yes, of course it does. So I do not say this in any way that is judgmental or critical. But throughout the ages, through the interplanetary transfers, through the creation, shall we say, alchemically or even by simply setting aside, you have that expression in your society, great wealth has been accumulated. Now, when you are thinking about the prosperity programs, what you also tend to do is you tend to think of world revolution. And yes, there is an evolution and a revolution in terms of societal structures, and the sharing of wealth, and I mean this is a concrete manner, at this time. But what you don't often look to, and what I have alluded to back in November is what about the wealth that is directly in front of you? What about the storehouses of gems, of gold, of money, of various things? So you will also look, and this is an aside, to those areas where there have been storehouses of which you are all aware of wealth that has simply been set aside for a privileged few. Now, you know, or perhaps some of you don't, I love gems, crystals. Steve Beckow, I know that for sure. Saint Germaine, and I particularly love diamonds. And I have been known in all my various lives and incarnations to share the amethysts and the diamonds freely. Steve Beckow, can I interrupt for a second, Saint Germaine? Saint Germaine, yes. Steve Beckow, you left your guests at your dinner parties at the time of, I think it was Louis XVI, you left them diamonds on their place cards, did you not? Saint Germaine, yes, I did. It was a good joke. Steve Beckow, laugh, absolutely. Saint Germaine, and it was a gift. It wasn't like my friend Louis really needed any of my baubles. But everybody enjoyed it, and everybody was in awe. And in that society, and at that time, there was way too much arrogance. And the sense of awe and the appreciation of beauty had become somewhat jaded. And so part of my teaching, my presence in being in these societies, was to reawaken that sense of the delightful, and how easy it is to share. So we are having this lesson all over again right now, are we not? Steve Beckow, yes, we are. Saint Germaine, so, yes. Do not rule out having a diamond left on your plastic placemat. Steve Beckow, laugh, anytime. Well, there's just one other point of interest I'd like to bring up before we turn in depth to the various prosperity programs. And that's that I think the American authorities sunk a lot of wealth in ships, some as deep as the Mariana Trench and some in the Philippines. Can you tell our listeners how this wealth was recovered? What was the process? Did the Galactics go down in their ships and draw this wealth out? Or how was it brought back to the surface? Saint Germaine, it has not been a difficult process at all. Now, don't forget, we work with energy. Your star brothers and sisters, what you think of as technology is a different use of energy. And let me be very clear. The Americans aren't the only ones who have, shall we say, placed for safekeeping money, gold, treasures, underneath the waters. It has been a practice for hundreds and hundreds, in some cases thousands of years. And it is an open secret above and below. So it is rather humorous. Now, it is simply, there are many, many space stations that are located actually underneath what you think of as your oceans or large bodies of water. So it is not a matter only of your star brothers and sisters going to recover. But they are already there, and their ability to teleport to various locations is as simple as snapping your fingers. So it is simply not an issue. The issue is and always has been, has greed been taken care of? Has that desire for control been taken care of? Is that attitude of lack and limitation in place so that I'd better hoard been taken care of? Because that is really what all this has been about. It has been about hoarding, and believing that, whether you are an individual, a king, a queen or a nation state, that somehow you will be in lack and need and that you will not be attended to. That is an absurd belief. Yes, I know it is one that has been deeply entrenched, but nevertheless let us call it what it is, and it is absurd. So, what you are saying is, has the gold, has the various riches, have they been recovered? Some has, and some is in the process. But do not worry, dear heart. We know exactly where things are. Steve Beckow. Well, I won't get into all the gold that's stored in gymnasium-sized buildings and all that. I'm going to leave that. But I'm going to turn to two streams of wealth that will, I think, if I'm correct, be coming online soon. One is the prosperity packages, and one is the wealth that will result from the global currency reset. Can we start with the prosperity packages, please, and can you give us an idea of what that is going to bring when it comes online? Saint Germaine, I want you to explain to your listeners what you are referring to by the prosperity packages. You will do a far more adequate job than I. Steve Beckow, well, I'm actually not very clear about them. But I know that some people have been contacted by others who are custodians of prosperity packages. And these custodians are wanting to get this money out. And the thinking I think is that whoever is gifted with it will then turn around and get it out further. And so this will be the first trickle of wealth. Now, the prosperity programs themselves go under names like Omega and I think Freedom, and they were started quite a ways back as subscription programs, I believe. That's about all I know about them, Saint Germaine. Saint Germaine, let us suggest to you that there are 12 prosperity programs that were started hundreds of years ago. And that the participation in them, which has always been free choice and freedom, has grown and been protected over the centuries. As you well know, I would include within this my own prosperity program and what you think of as the Saint Germaine Trust. But it is one of several. Those who are participants in the prosperity programs have undertaken not just a casual agreement, but a very deep, sacred vow to share the wealth as it has come forward and when the time was nigh, was right. And that is beginning right now. Now, you know, if you have read my history, that I have been very involved in the Rosicrucians and the Freemasons. Steve Beckow, yes. Saint Germaine. And it is this type of what you have thought of as secret organization with commitment to high spiritual principles that have been entrusted with this undertaking. And there have been certain individuals who have come specifically to Earth under the purview of different masters, particularly Sanat Kumara, as well to assist in not only the development of these programs but then the distribution. So this has not been a fly-by-night operation by any stretch of the imagination. Now, the crack, and I do mean crack, in the door, or shall we say the bank vault, is beginning to be opened. And we say crack for a very particular reason. The lessons of what we can call the fallen civilizations have made all of us cautious. We remain observers, but that does not mean we distance ourselves from your need. But we also come and weigh your ability to discern, to manage, to handle, and to have ridded yourselves of these old false beliefs, what you have called vasanas, what Linda calls false grids. You know what we are speaking of? Steve Beckow: Yes, I do. Saint Germaine: We have opened up the bank vault a crack to allow the monies to start to flow, and many of you have become aware of this. Now, we are not speaking of minuscule amounts. We are talking about wealth that would make many nations' GNP look small. So it is going to redress the balance of fairness, of equality, of that freedom that I care about all over the planet. But it is not going to happen so rapidly that it throws everybody into a tailspin and makes markets crash and prices soar and people become irrational. But the beginning, and it is true for all 12 of the programs, has already begun. And there are many of you out there who have already begun to receive funds. What to do if you are a recipient of funds? Steve Beckow: Yes. I'm going to ask you in a moment about the global currency reset and the revaluation of the dinar and the dong, and this question I'm about to ask you now really applies to both, but let me leave that question for a moment and just ask you. There are the custodians who are distributing the prosperity funds to recipients. The recipients who receive them, what are you hoping they will do with those funds? Germaine: This is a very good question. The first thing I want you to do with your funds is to take care of your sweet self. I want you to eradicate debt, because debt is part of the old grid. It has been the manipulation to such a disgusting degree. So we eliminate personal debt so that you are not answering, or beholden to anybody, not to a corporation, not to a friend, not to anybody. That is first and foremost. Then I want you to take care of yourself. So to keep the money to have adequate food and housing. You know I have lived in the caves of the Himalayas, I have lived in the palaces. Both are comforting. But what I recognize, and what each of you has need while you are in human form to recognize, is that sacred space isn't a luxury. It is a requirement of being alive. It is part of the deal that you made with the mother when you came. So you take care of what we call foundational issues. And then you begin to create. You share with others, or perhaps you have been gifted with a particular vision that you know very clearly is part of your mission and purpose. Well, when you have the prosperity and the funds and the vision, inspiration, and the truth to implement this, then go ahead and do so. And then assist others in finding their truth, but also taking care of their debt, their limitation. So, some of you will be modern-day Mother Teresas, and you will feed and clothe and house the poor. And others of you will move into telecommunications. Others of you will move into reorganization of free schools so that education becomes and returns to what it was really intended to be. But first, beloved ones, let us see the elimination of this illusion of debt. The global currency reset. Steve Beckow: Okay. Now, all of what you've just said I believe would apply to people who are experiencing a second wave of prosperity, and that is the people who have bought Iraqi dinar, Vietnamese dong, who are lightworkers who bought it because they want to serve society. But can you tell our listeners generally what the global currency reset is all about, and perhaps go into a little bit about how it is that the dinar revaluation was in? Well, how can I say this? Archangel Michael has told me that some lightworkers have been made aware of this revaluation so they can purchase dinars and then turn around and serve the lightworker community. So can you talk a little bit about the global currency reset, please? Germaine, you have an expression, I think, that is still in force, and it is called practical magic. Now, this, what you are thinking of as a reorganization of financial values, has been in the works for a very long time, and there are many that have been involved in this issue of dong or dinar, or what have you, currency traders, they're called, for, decades. Some have spent their entire lives simply focusing on this issue. So this is nothing new. What is new, what has shifted, is the coming together of spiritual values with the practicality of what you think of as currency. Now, the history of this, and you know it has been exceptionally rocky, the history of this has literally been tied also to Archangel Michael's strategic peace initiative for the globe. And what we know to be true is when there is equality there is a lessened desire to create war and mayhem. Now, we are not saying that fanaticism will go out the window, but we are not funding mayhem and fanaticism. What we are funding in many ways, not entirely, are many lightworkers who wish, and who have earned. Let me be very clear about that. Many of those who are receiving this blessing have been doing the work for decades. So it has just been, in some ways, a delayed payment. Now, what we are also seeing, not hoping, seeing, is as these resets, these re-evaluations of what you think of as currency occurs, is that it will bring a lessening to the civil strife that is happening in some of the affected countries. So, for example, right now you have a great deal of civil unrest, and might we say on the verge of war, or civil war, in Iraq. What we are hoping for and what we were expecting to see is that this will have a tendency to stabilize not only the lightworker community, because when a collective comes together and realizes that they have been acknowledged by the world's financial community as having value, it changes the mindset. So, the sense of desperation begins to dissipate, like smoke. The purpose of so many lightworkers being part of this, what you can think of as one of the golden rivers, is for them to be able, just as I have said, to take care of themselves, their families, their friends, but also to begin to create just what you have outlined in your book, Dear Heart, a world that works, a world where people are fed. You are not breatharians yet. You are not even vegan yet. So there are many, and we do not judge what you eat. As long as you transmute it, it does not really matter. But what you are going to do is create clean water, yes, in tandem with your star brothers and sisters. We have said, and when I say we I mean the entire company of heaven, the council of love, the archangels and everybody else have said, as this begins, and we tell you it has begun, the bank vault has been cracked, what happens is the domino effect. So don't simply be looking to one arena. And don't simply be waiting for money to land in your lap. You are doing your work. You have been doing your work. As Michael has beckoned to you last weekend, please begin to let those who are feeling that need is something that is part of their lives, let go of that illusion. And let the abundance, and when we say abundance we mean it in every sense of the word, let the abundance flow. Indigenous prosperity. Steve Beckow, all right. Thank you for that. Now, one special group is also receiving prosperity packages and programs, and that is the indigenous populations of the world, and in some cases I believe land is going to be returned to them. Can you discuss this side of the golden rivers, as you've called them? Germaine, yes, because it is an equalization. Think of this as an equalization process that, as I have said, has been in planning, in formulation and in saving for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. So, think of it. When those lands were stolen, we cannot really pretend otherwise, and I know because I was Christopher Columbus, when those lands were taken, there was also an understanding that there would need to be a balance reset at one point. Now, much water has passed under that boat and bridge. We cannot, nor is it desirable, to bring things back to the way they were. No. It is about bringing the future into your now. So we are not suggesting, for example, that all the cities will be razed and that people will go and live in tapis. Because most people would not choose to. Now, if you wish to, that is absolutely fine, and your choice. No, it is returning to the indigenous peoples, all over the world, by the way, the ability to create the societies and the communities that they desire, according to the traditions and the values that they choose. Because that is freedom. It is not the adding on that you will behave in a certain way, and therefore you will be blessed. Your freedom is already etched within you. You already know. And then it simply gives you the capacity, and we aren't just talking about money when we talk about capacity, it gives you the capacity to proceed in the direction that you choose. General abundance. Steve Beckow, there will be many people listening to this who may say to themselves, well, I'm not a recipient of the prosperity packages. And I didn't buy Iraqi dinar. When am I going to start realizing abundance? What is your answer to them, Saint Germaine? Germaine, perhaps you just don't know what you wrote on the walls of your heart and in your sacred plan of unfoldment of your plan within the plan. Now, I do not say that in a way that is dismissive or derogatory. I do not see written on the walls of any of your hearts the desire to live in lack, in limitation, to live without. That would be absurd. And what you are doing is you are moving from a reality that in many ways the illusions made no sense. Your common sense and what exists, they do not mesh in any way. So what I say to you, dear heart, it doesn't matter if your role, your mission and purpose has not been to dinar or dong or French currency, which I am preferential to. It does not matter if you have not been participating in a prosperity program. That does not mean that you will not be a recipient of that abundance. The whole idea is sharing. When you share, when you have that diamond on your plastic placemat, you don't feel the need to get the gun and go rob a bank. You don't feel the need to feel badly about yourself because you can't send your child to swimming camp, or you can't buy enough bread, or you can't pay the mortgage. When you have enough, and all you have come here with the agreement intact that you would have enough, that you would. Some of you would experience lack so that when it occurred you would boot it to the curb. So, you say, but, Germaine, when? And what I say to you is what you hate to hear, is very, very, very soon. This flow-through is going to be rapid. President Barack Obama Steve Beckow, that's very comforting, Saint Germaine. Now, President Obama, even from some of the people who are speaking as if they know about the new prosperity programs, and the global reset, they're still talking about President Obama as if he's going to go on a very long vacation, as if he's a black hat, etc. What has President Obama's role been in the whole structuring and delivering of the prosperity programs, please? Germaine, now, you know that I love this nation of the United States of America. And between you and me, my friend, I am also very partial to Canada as well. It is the country of freedom. Do you think in the mother's plan, at this time and juncture and point of transition, that she has placed somebody that is not aware, or filled, seen and unseen, with beings like me, with Archangel Michael, particularly, with Sanat Kumara, with legions of angels, with star beings and brothers? Has this one waffled at times? Yes. And that is a human experience. That is an angelic star being having a human experience. This one is not dark of heart. Quite the contrary. He has been entrusted to this position so that he can help his people climb out of this hole that he has witnessed up close and personally. Chinese elders or white dragons Steve Beckow, all right. One of the very mysterious players in all this are the Chinese elders or the white dragons. What can you tell us about the elders? What can you tell us about their role in all this, what role they're serving at the present time, and their influence on events, please? Germaine, well, I will not say too much about the white dragons, because they would not appreciate it. Steve Beckow, okay. Germaine, but let me use this analogy. The power of water, of a tiny drop of water on the rock forming a hole. The water going silently into tributaries. This has been the role of the Chinese elders. They have moved like the silent water, and they have done so in secrecy, in full awareness of their mission and purpose. Now, know that we differentiate between what one would think of as the governance of China and the white dragons. It is not that there cannot be cooperation, and there is, but it is not the governance. These are elders, much like the indigenous elders, who have held the dream, and in growing the wealth and knowing that the time would come when their responsibility to take care of the world would come forward. They are the movers and shakers. They are the pattern dwellers behind the scenes. Hidden documents Steve Beckow, can you tell us? There are apparently a great deal of documents, some rescued from the Library of Alexandria before it was burned, and others taken from all manner of situations and locations that are being stored deep within the earth. When will these be returned to the surface? Germaine, we would suggest they will be returned to the surface during the early part of 2014. Steve Beckow, all right. And what bodies of knowledge can we look forward to reattaining at that time? Germaine, it is not so much the bodies of knowledge, and there are some, but it is also the understanding of the journey of humanity and even the fall from grace, as you can think of it, the history of humanity, whence you came, what you brought, what you knew. Now, the documents are not the only source. As you well know, the Lemurian crystals also carry a great deal of your history. Now, there are only a few who are really becoming adept at reading those crystals. But that will also be unlocked as well as the information with your star brothers and sisters, how the seeding of the planet, the creator race, came to pass. So it will be documents of interest, not of intrigue, and certainly not of punishment. The divine qualities of an abundance custodian, Steve Beckow. All right. Well, that's certainly something to look forward to. In the time remaining, could you give us a discussion, a word picture, of the divine qualities that will come into play around the successful and useful handling of money, handling of prosperity? Can you give us a picture of the person that you want to see emerge in all of us that takes this prosperity and successfully uses it in the way that the company of heaven and the council of love have wanted it to be used, please? And the Divine Mother? Germaine, I would be pleased to, and I am honored to do so. And I am not painting a picture of an individual who does not know how to have fun, because, dear hearts, I have taught you how to have fun long ago. So, don't forget it. Steve Beckow. No, we won't. Germaine, purity. Purity is number one. And it is purity of intention, purity of action, purity of thought. It is a sense of selflessness with regard to the collective, but also regarding yourself. Purity is vitally important and your starting point. If you are feeling any of the whispers of the old grids, then simply let it go and return to your heart of purity. The second is compassion. Yes, even more important than grace or humility. Compassion to see the situations of your next door neighbor, or the nation next door. To see, not with the eyes of, let me assume your burden, but let me assist. Let me assist, give you the tools that you need, that you want, that you select for your freedom journey. So compassion is very important. Wisdom. The ability to know, from that place of your heart consciousness, what is desirable, what we would call necessary, and in what balance. You do not give what is not manageable. So you do not give somebody, for example, who has been living on food stamps, God bless them, you do not give them $1 million and say, good luck. You give them the wisdom tools, the supports, the infrastructure for them to manage and to grow into the knowing, the wisdom of how to deal with prosperity. Prudence. That is the balance in all things. It is the balance to know when to extend, when to stay still, when to withdraw. So these are the primary qualities that I would ask you to bring forth, and that you already have. So let them flow like the golden river, and do not forget, my beloved ones. Please, use my violet flame. Allow the torch of freedom to be held high and declare it, this day and every day, your deservingness to receive and then to share, to give with your hearts. Farewell. Steve Beckow. Thank you very much, Saint Germaine. Farewell.